Welcome to the Muslim blog. When a person is in any kind of situation, the issue is whether a person can defend themselves from people who shouldn't exist, though. I think that's a big point. Let's say, for example, someone is talking about something. Let's say there's persons who exist who talk about things regardless. The way I like to understand it, though, is whether persons understand that when there is a context like ours, there have to be some things that are explainable, some things that are case study, and some things that are beyond explanation because we don't feel like torturing ourselves regarding the topic. Let's say, for example, when someone is in a particular situation, there are people who exist to annoy other people. What would you call those people? I call them superfluous, but a person can also render themselves superfluous. But when a person is in any kind of situation, though, the issue is whether or not persons care about topics that no one cares about. Does a person care whether or not someone talks about things that have to do with a context that may or may not exist in a different way? Let's say, for example, when persons are talking about nearly anything, a person can talk about a topic that makes sense, and then someone can talk about something no one cares about. If the person is talking about something that makes sense, to me they're talking about things that explain things as they are. If the person is talking about something different, though, a person can talk about context that no one cares about, though. Well, my whole thing is whether or not that by itself is evidence of something separate, though. Like, if a person is talking about stuff no one cares about, then the issue must be why the person exists for whatever reason. But if we don't want to talk about that, to me that makes sense. The issue is whether that annoying person can force us to talk about topics that no one cares about. Let's say, for example, when someone is in a particular context, they're talking about things that matter, and then there's some annoying person that says something that no one cares about. In that sense, though, like, the name for the person has to be obvious, though. Like, if a person is talking about topics that actually matter, and then there's someone who's talking about things no one cares about, if the person is talking about any number of topics, though, the issue is whether there's a person there to tell the other person that any number of people can be people who make no sense. But when I think of any topic, though, it has to do with whether we can think about a topic in a way that is both decisive regardless. Decisiveness to me sounds like a rational judgment, right? Like a person can make a rational judgment about something. When a person makes a judgment, though, the issue is whether there's everyone knows what a judgment is, exactly. But when we are in a particular topic, though, the issue is whether someone who is in a subject is talking about things that no one cares about, and the person is talking about it in such a way that annoys a process that makes sense. When we look at any process, though, a person can say, well, just remove the person. That makes sense, though, but the implication of what we're doing is something exactly. When a person is talking about a process that actually matters to the human race, the person talks about things that are relevant. For example, where we came from. To me, that's a big topic. If the person is insisting on talking about topics that are superfluous, for example, the type of glitter, exactly. But persons do that, right? Like, a person could say, when we look at a particular context, I want to talk about couture. Well, when I translate that to myself, the person wants to talk about glitter. A person can say, no, I feel like talking about what actually matters. If someone wears glitter, though, it must be because it's human first, and then it wears glitter for any number of praising God reasons. But, like, if the person is talking about the couture as if it's the reason for it, like, what I'm trying to show people is how lunatic anything can be. Like, a person is not willing to accept that things are that lunatic, but if they just stay with me for a second, they'll see that. If a person is in a particular context, the person says, I don't talk about these topics. Well, what the fuck do you talk about then? Let's say I talk about couture. I'm saying, but you're talking about glitter. Exactly. So when a person talks about those topics, though, it really is that. Like, if a person is at a particular topic, someone says, well, that's not... I'm like, well, what the fuck is your subject then? When we look at the only subject that makes sense, the human being is the reason for existence. No, the human being is the point. The reason why the human being exists is the issue. In that sense, though, if the person is insisting on talking about topics no one cares about, though, the issue is whether the person should be permitted to exist, in my view. But if the person exists for any number of perverse topics, then we can say the person is obviously perverse and we can hate them for that reason, though. To me, that makes perfect sense. If a person is in a particular topic, though, okay, it has to do with whether these things can be reasoned in a normal way, okay? Like, if a person is in their own topic, The issue is whether or not someone recognizes that someone like that is telling the person not to discuss a topic that is about their continuing existence as an eternal subject. Like, it's that crazy, right? Like, when a person's in a particular topic, the individual in question is telling people not to talk about a topic that is integral to their, let's say, existence forever. Exactly. When a person is in a particular topic, though, the issue is whether persons can simply reason like that and say, listen, like, when anyone is in a particular topic, though, if the person is making any number of subjects, though, like, let's say someone is in a particular topic, the person is discussing a subject. The human being by itself exists to know a topic integral to its existence. Okay, if a being is telling someone, let's talk about topics that have to do with, I don't know, garbage, that is what the person is saying effectively, though. When a person is in a particular topic, it's a concoction of garbage. Exactly. If the garments are painted, so fucking what? Pardon my language, but when a person is in a particular topic, though, we have to talk about the reason why the human wears a garment, which is symbol of its intellectual status according to creation. Exactly. But if the person is talking about whether or not something like that by itself is evidence of the fact that the human being comes from somewhere else, exactly. But when a person is talking about nearly any topic, though, if the person is talking about the garment as if the garment is the subject for someone's existence, though, then we have to ask, is the person serving an interest that is different from the human being's, though? If the person is in a particular topic, when the human being exists, it exists to know a topic integral to its survival, let's say. Integral to its existence, let's say. If someone is telling it something completely different, though, the reason for your existence is a garment that is painted or whatever, or any number of topics that no one cares about, though, the being has to be called something obvious, exactly. What if the being does any number of things that we would relate to topics that we care about, like if the person is administering a process, exactly. What if the being uses that administrative process to administer something about a garment for the purpose of deceiving the human being about its status in reality? Let's say, for example, though, okay, when we look at a process that we call administrative, okay, it's for reasons that we understand. Like, a person can be an administrative process related to relevant topics like whether the human being is treated for illness, exactly. But that's related to the subject for why the human being exists to begin with, though, okay? But if there is a being, by its very nature, that is using that rightful process to administer a process that is what we would obviously call superfluous. But if it's straightforward, let me know, though. When a person is in a particular topic, someone can say, well, that's no, but what is the being doing, though? When a person is in any kind of context, the being tells it to do any number of topics that no one cares about. The person talks about those topics as if it's the reason for their existence, not by chance. What would you call those types of beings, though? If the person makes the error that I believe is an error of serious judgment, it's an error in judgment, I would say that you call that type of being a human being like yourself. Exactly. But when we look at it from any number of perspectives, though, the being itself has to be called what it is. What is a being that is anti-human? That is exactly what we're talking about, though. What the being is doing is anti the human, exactly. It's distracting? No. It is making its purpose, exactly. It's talking about a topic for the purpose of telling the human being it should not think of its integral existence, exactly. It's doing it according to an administrative process, let's say, that is for any number of things that we understand about the serious existence of a human being. The being itself is doing something anti-human being. The being has to be called what it is, a demon, exactly. When something is demean, exactly. Why would that then be considered something supernatural, even though it is? But let's say for the purpose of rational discussion, if we take it as a number of properties, though, anyone who's doing those types of things must be called what it is, an anti-human or a demon. In that sense, though, why is that something strange, though? When we look at this particular topic, we'll talk about it further, but if it's not obvious, let me know. In that sense, in the next one, we'll talk about it. Have a good one.